Every empire that enslaved black people has fallen. Egypt fell, Assyria fell, Babylon fell, Rome fell, the Ottoman Empire fell, the British Empire fell, and the American empire built on stolen land and stolen bodies is falling right now. You're watching it in real time. The dollar is losing its global dominance. BRICS nations are creating alternative currencies. The national debt just passed $33 trillion. Political polarization is so extreme that half the country doesn't believe the other half should exist. The education system is collapsing. The healthcare system is a scam. The prison system is slavery by another name, and even mainstream economists are starting to say it out loud. Trust in government is at an all-time low. Trust in media is at an all-time low. Trust in the church is at an all-time low. Every institution is crumbling. And black people are building outside the system. This is what Amos 9:11 prophesied. In that day I will restore David's fallen tent. I will repair its broken places, restore its ruins, and build it as it used to be. The tabernacle, the tent, the portable, decentralized, community-based structure that existed before Solomon built the temple, before centralized power, before the corruption. God is dismantling the temple economy and restoring the tent. And Black America is leading the way, building platforms, currencies, schools, farms, media companies, tech startups that don't need the empire's permission. You think that's an accident? Let me show you something that will make your skin prickle. In 1862, during the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln met with a delegation of free black leaders and proposed colonization, shipping all black people back to Africa or Central America because he didn't believe the races could coexist. This is in the congressional record. The great emancipator wanted you gone. Slavery didn't end because of white guilt. It ended because the South seceded and Lincoln needed a military advantage. The Emancipation Proclamation only freed enslaved people in Confederate states, not border states loyal to the Union. Read the document yourself. It's a war tactic, not a moral victory. And after Lincoln died, Andrew Johnson reversed every Reconstruction policy, gave plantations back to former slaveholders, and let the Ku Klux Klan terrorize black communities with impunity. The lie is in the history textbook. They taught you that America slowly, painfully, learned to do the right thing. That's not what happened. What happened is black people survived despite America, built businesses despite terrorism, built schools despite being illegal to read, built churches despite being whipped for praying, built families despite being sold away from each other, built wealth despite redlining, despite contract buying, despite the Tulsa Massacre, despite Rosewood, despite every black Wall Street in every city being burned to the ground. You're not here because America got better. You're here because your ancestors were unkillable. And that DNA is still in you. Trump's greatest miscalculation, the one that will haunt him and everyone like him, is that he thought fear would make black people shrink. He thought spectacle would distract. He thought division would conquer. But he forgot what every pharaoh forgets. The more you oppress them, the more they multiply. The blueprint is already written. It's been written for 3,000 years, and it ends the same way every time. The enslaved go free, the oppressors drown, and the people who were at the bottom inherit the earth. Here's your choice, and the people who were at the bottom inherit the earth. Here's your choice. You can watch this happen and think it's politics. You can treat this like another election cycle, another news story, another reason to be angry on the internet. Or you can recognize this for what it is, spiritual warfare playing out on a geopolitical stage, and you have a role, not as a victim, not as a bystander, as a participant in the greatest liberation story since Exodus. Your prayer life matters. Your financial choices matter. Your vote matters. Your business matters. Your unity with other black people matters. Your willingness to study scripture for yourself, not through a white evangelical lens, matters. Because this isn't just about you. This is about every ancestor who died in chains praying for the day you'd be free. Every mother who watched her child sold away and cried out to God for justice. Every man who was lynched and asked God to remember. Every woman who was raped and begged God to see. They're watching, and their prayers are being answered in your lifetime. Trump activated the final assignment. He just doesn't know he's not the main character. You are. Now go build like it. The civil rights movement didn't end racism. It relocated it, moved it from the lynching tree to the boardroom, from the plantation to the prison, from the slave auction to the subprime mortgage office. And the architects of that relocation knew exactly what they were doing. There's a memo, an actual document you can read, written in 1971 by Lewis Powell, 2 months before Nixon appointed him to the Supreme Court. It's called the Powell Memorandum, and it's a blueprint for how corporations should take over American education, media, politics, and the courts to protect capitalism from the social movements of the 1960s. Translation: how to make sure black liberation never touches the money. That memo became the infrastructure of your oppression for the next 50 years. But here's what Powell and every strategist like him didn't account for: the internet. They built a system designed to control information through 3 television networks, 5 major newspapers, and a handful of publishing houses. They spent billions making sure the narrative stayed in their hands. And then in the late 1990s, regular people got the ability to publish, broadcast, and organize without permission. By 2008, a black man used social media to become president, something that would have been impossible in the controlled media environment of 1988 or even 1998. And by 2016, that same technology allowed a reality TV star with no political experience to bypass the Republican establishment and win the presidency by saying the quiet parts loud. The gatekeepers lost control of the gate. Trump's Twitter account was more powerful than CNN, and Black Twitter was more powerful than both. When Trayvon Martin was killed in 2012, it wasn't the nightly news that made it a national story. It was black people on social media refusing to let it disappear. When Sandra Bland died in a Texas jail cell, it was hashtags and viral videos that forced an investigation. When George Floyd was murdered, the video spread so fast that the entire world saw it before the Minneapolis Police Department could craft their usual lie about a medical incident. The technology that the system created to sell you products became the weapon that exposed the system itself. This is spiritual jujitsu. 1 Samuel 17, David doesn't beat Goliath with Goliath's weapons. Saul tries to put armor on him, the giant's armor, the system's armor, and David can't even walk in it, so he takes it off. Grabs 5 smooth stones and a sling, uses the tools he knows, and when he hits Goliath in the forehead, the giant falls. Then David takes Goliath's own sword and cuts his head off with it. That's the pattern. You don't beat the system with the system's weapons. You beat it with the tools God gave you. And then you use the system's own power to destroy it. Black people are doing that right now, and most of you don't even realize it. Every time a black creator builds a 1 million follower platform and monetizes it without a network deal, that's David Stone. Every time a black family pulls their money out of Wells Fargo, the bank that got caught creating fake accounts and discriminating against black mortgage applicants, and puts it in a black-owned credit union, that's David Stone. Every time a black parent homeschools their child or enrolls them in an Afrocentric private school, instead of the public system that suspends black boys at 6 times the rate of white boys, that's David Stone. Every time a black software engineer builds an app that solves a problem in the black community without waiting for Silicon Valley funding, that's David Stone. Every time a black farmer buys back land that was stolen from their grandparents through USDA discrimination and grows food for their community, that's David Stone. You've been throwing stones for years. You just didn't know you were in a battle with a giant. Now let me show you the giant's face. His name is Larry Fink. He's the CEO of BlackRock, the largest asset management firm in the world. BlackRock controls over $10 trillion in assets. That's more than the GDP of every country on Earth except the United States and China. And in the last 5 years, BlackRock and firms like it, Vanguard, State Street, have been buying up single-family homes across America at a rate that would make your head spin. Not apartments. Not commercial real estate. Houses. The houses that black families were finally starting to buy after decades of being locked out by redlining. Houses in Atlanta. Houses in Charlotte. Houses in Phoenix. Houses in Jacksonville. They're paying 20 to 50% above asking price in cash, beating out every regular family trying to build wealth through homeownership. Read that verse again. Homeownership is how America builds generational wealth. It's how white families who bought houses in the 1950s with racist FHA loans locked black people out of are now worth millions. The average white family has 10 times the wealth of the average black family, and 90% of that gap is real estate. So just when black homeownership starts ticking up, just when the door cracks open, Wall Street walks in and buys the entire neighborhood. Then they rent it back to you at prices you can't afford. It's digital sharecropping. You work, they own, you stay poor, they get richer. And it's legal. Celebrated even. Larry Fink goes on CNBC and talks about stakeholder capitalism and ESG investing and sounds like a progressive while he's buying your future out from under you. That's Goliath. But here's where it gets dangerous. Goliath is not invincible, he's just loud. He wants you to think the game is over, that resistance is pointless, that you should just accept the new feudalism and be grateful for the scraps. But there's a crack in his armor, and it's the same crack that's always been there: pride. Goliath thinks he's untouchable, thinks he's too big to fail. Thinks he can do anything: crash the economy in 2008, get bailout out with taxpayer money, pay his executives bonuses and face zero consequences, and nothing will change. He's not wrong about the past. He's wrong about the future. Because the wealth transfer isn't coming from Goliath's generosity, it's coming from his collapse. Revelation 18 describes the fall of Babylon in one chapter, and it's the most economically detailed prophecy in Scripture. It lists the merchants, the cargo, the supply chains. It describes a global economic system built on exploitation: gold, silver, pearls, fine linen, purple cloth, silk, cattle, sheep, horses, chariots, and bodies and souls of men. Then in verse 17 it says, "In 1 hour such great wealth has been laid waste." 1 hour. Not a gradual decline. A sudden crash. And the merchants who got rich off the system stand far off and weep, because no one buys their merchandise anymore. The entire economy collapses because the foundation was built on blood. You're watching the beginning of that collapse right now. The banking system almost imploded in March 2023. Silicon Valley Bank failed. Signature Bank failed. First Republic failed. Credit Suisse, a 167-year-old institution, failed and had to be absorbed by UBS in a weekend fire sale. The federal government had to step in and guarantee deposits to prevent a full-scale panic. And the reason those banks failed is because they were over-leveraged, holding assets that lost value when interest rates went up, built on a foundation of cheap debt and speculation. The same foundation as 2008. The same foundation as 1929. The same foundation as every empire that thought it could print money forever and never pay the bill. The date matters more than the name. March 2023 is exactly 15 years after the 2008 crash. 15 years after Lehman Brothers collapsed and took the global economy with it. In biblical numerology, 15 is the number of rest and deliverance. It's the day the Israelites rested after crossing the Red Sea. It's the day they sang the Song of Moses in Exodus 15. The enemy's army is drowned, and the people are finally free to rest. I'm not saying God crashed those banks. I'm saying God allowed a system built on greed to cannibalize itself, right on schedule, and the people paying attention saw the pattern. Because God is not unclear, He drops breadcrumbs for those who have eyes to see. Now let me take you to a place most pastors won't. Deuteronomy 28, the blessings and curses. It's the longest chapter in the book, and most churches skip it because it's uncomfortable. Verses 1 through 14 are the blessings for obedience. Verses 15 through 68 are the curses for disobedience. And if you read verses 15 through 68 honestly, if you read them as a black person in America, you will feel your stomach drop. Because it reads like a historical account of the transatlantic slave trade. Verse 32, "Your sons and daughters will be given to another nation, and you will wear out your eyes watching for them day after day, powerless to lift a hand." That's the auction block. That's families ripped apart and sold to plantations in different states, never to see each other again. Verse 41, "You will have sons and daughters, but you will not keep them, because they will go into captivity." That's every black mother whose child was stolen and sold. Verse 48, "You will serve your enemies in hunger and thirst, in nakedness and dire poverty. You will be put under an iron yoke until you are destroyed." That's plantation slavery, literally. Verse 68, "The Lord will send you back in ships to Egypt on a journey I said you should never make again. You will offer yourselves for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one will buy you." That's the middle passage, the ships, The journey back to Africa, but not as free people returning home, as cargo, as bodies sold into bondage. This is the skipped verse. Theologians have spent centuries trying to explain Deuteronomy 28:68, trying to figure out when Israel was sent back to Egypt in ships and sold as slaves. The answer is they weren't, at least not the people we call Jews today. But there's another Israel, a scattered Israel, a people who were cursed, enslaved, and sent to the four corners of the earth, a people who lost their identity, lost their language, lost their land, a people who are only now waking up to who they are. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm telling you to read your Bible and ask God who He's talking about. Here's what I know for certain. Whether you're Hebrew Israelite, Baptist, African traditional religion, or still figuring it out, the Bible describes your experience. The curses in Deuteronomy 28 are a forensic match for Black American history. And if the curses fit, then the promise of restoration fits too. Because Deuteronomy 30 says, after all these curses have come upon you, and you return to the Lord your God, He will restore your fortunes and have compassion on you. He will gather you again from all the nations where He scattered you, even if you've been banished to the most distant land under the heavens. From there, the Lord your God will gather you and bring you back. That's not symbolic, that's a prophecy of return. And Trump, whether he knows it or not, is accelerating that return, not because he's righteous, not because he cares about Black people, but because his chaos is forcing Black people to stop seeking validation from a system that was never designed to include them. His racism is so blatant, so unapologetic that it's breaking the last spell, the belief that if we just work hard enough, speak well enough, dress right enough, we'll be accepted. We won't. And that rejection is a gift. Because now you're free to build something that doesn't need their approval. Let me show you what that looks like in real time. In 2020, after George Floyd, after the protests, after the corporations posted their black squares and made their promises, there was a brief window where white America pretended to care. And some Black people saw through it, saw that the donations were optics, saw that the diversity initiatives were performative, saw that nothing structural was going to change. So they stopped asking, stopped waiting, started building. Black-owned bookstores saw a 300% increase in sales. Black therapists had waitlists months long. Black farmers received so many orders they couldn't keep up. Black writers got six-figure book deals and told the stories the publishing industry had been rejecting for decades. Black actors started production companies and greenlit projects Hollywood said weren't marketable. Black musicians owned their masters and made millions directly from fans without a label taking 80%. This is the great possessions. You think Pharaoh let Israel go with nothing? Exodus 12:35-36 says the Israelites asked the Egyptians for silver, gold, and clothing, and the Lord made the Egyptians favorably disposed to them, so they gave them what they asked for. They plundered the Egyptians, not through violence, through a supernatural shift in the atmosphere where the oppressor's wealth transferred to the oppressed overnight. The Egyptians were so traumatized by the plagues, so desperate for Israel to leave, that they threw riches at them just to make them go. That transfer is happening again. You just have to have eyes to see it. This isn't about waiting for a check from the government. Reparations might come, but if they do, they'll come with strings attached. They'll come with conditions that keep you dependent. The real reparations are what you take, what you build, what you teach your children, what you refuse to let the system steal anymore. Your attention is wealth. Stop giving it to platforms that don't pay you. Your data is wealth. Stop letting corporations harvest it for free. Your pain is wealth. Stop letting therapists and pharmaceutical companies profit off trauma without healing you. Your stories are wealth. Stop letting Hollywood buy them for pennies and make billions. You already have what you need. You just have to stop giving it away. Trump's second rise, if it happens, will not be a setback. It will be the final clarification. The final proof that this system will never love you, never protect you, never see you as fully human. And that clarity will birth a movement so focused, so economically disciplined, so spiritually grounded that nothing will stop it. Not vote or suppression, not police brutality, not media propaganda, not infiltration, because the movement won't be centralized. It won't have one leader to assassinate or one organization to destroy. It'll be a million small fires burning across the country, each one tended by people who finally understand that freedom is not given, it's taken. And you're out of time for waiting. There's a verse in Habakkuk that doesn't get preached much, chapter 2, verse 3. For the revelation awaits an appointed time, it speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it, it will certainly come and will not delay. The prophet is frustrated. He's asking God why evil people prosper, why the wicked swallow up those more righteous than themselves, why justice seems to sleep. And God's answer is not comfort, it's a command. Write the vision down, make it plain. Because there's an appointed time, a clock that started ticking before you were born, and when that clock hits zero, everything changes in a moment. Black America is living in that moment right now. You feel it, don't you? The acceleration, the way time feels compressed, the way things that used to take decades are happening in months, the way institutions that seemed permanent 5 years ago are crumbling before your eyes, the way conversations that were taboo in 2015, reparations, police abolition, the wealth gap, medical racism, prison slavery, are now mainstream. The way your grandparents' prayers feel like they're landing in real time. That's not coincidence. That's the appointed time. The Kairos moment. The fullness of time when God steps into human history and flips the script. And Trump is the unwitting prophet of that flip. Let me show you something that'll make the hair on your neck stand up. In ancient Israel, God used pagan kings to accomplish his purposes all the time. Nebuchadnezzar conquered Judah and destroyed the temple, but God called him my servant in Jeremiah 25:9. Cyrus the Persian freed the Jews from Babylonian captivity, and God called him my anointed in Isaiah 45:1, even though Cyrus didn't worship the God of Israel. These men had no idea they were fulfilling prophecy. They thought they were building empires, securing legacies, making history. But they were just pieces on a board, moving exactly where God needed them to move. Trump is Cyrus, except he doesn't know the people he's freeing are black. When Trump enacted the First Step Act in 2018, criminal justice reform that released thousands of people from federal prison, he did it for optics. Did it because Kanye West and Kim Kardashian came to the White House and made it sound like a win? Did it because he wanted to pull black voters away from Democrats? He had no idea he was opening prison doors the same way Cyrus opened Babylon's gates. Didn't know he was fulfilling Isaiah 61:1. The Spirit of the Lord is on me to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners. That verse is about the Messiah, but it's also about what the Messiah's people do. And whether Trump knows it or not, he moved a piece on the board that freed thousands of black men and women who should never have been caged in the first place. That number is a fingerprint. Between 2018 and 2022, over 30,000 people were released early from federal prison under the First Step Act. 30,000. In biblical numerology, 30 is the number of dedication and maturity. It's the age when priests could begin their ministry. It's the age when Jesus started his public ministry. It's the age when Joseph went from prison to second in command of Egypt. 30 is the number of transition from preparation to purpose. And 30,000 people, most of them black and brown, went from